I'm Matt Hamilton, and I'm a 7th generation Ketchikan kid, and then 2nd generation artist. But yeah, I've just been bumming around for years, hanging out. I work at Community Connections, and I work with kids in foster care, kids that have that are struggling with behavior. Years ago, I started doing designs for people because they were asking me to do shirts for them, and then I never really wanted to get into that part of it. I wanted to make a couple shirts, and that should be it. And then this year, my wife was like, "Yeah, you know, you got a lot of shirts," and I was like, "Yeah." I'm like selling like 10 different shirts, and then I realized that, like, you know, she goes, "You got sweatpants, you got hoodies, you got t-shirts," and I was like, "So yeah," and then she goes, "You accidentally made a clothing line," and then I realized that, yeah, I did, and so I'm not exactly Donatella Versace. I feel like I'm the, yeah, just the Sanford and Son version of that, maybe. But yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. So my company's the Creative Hustler Company, because I used to do like make stuff and sell it online, but I have to go to parking lots in the middle of the night to go sell this like bootleg artwork out of the trunk of my car. So that's kind of where it all started, and now I'm helping other artists trying to get their foot in the door and kind of taking them under my umbrella of the Creative Hustler Company. So, you know, I'm always telling kids, like even my daughter, she's 5 years old, and I'm always encouraging her to fail, try something and just fail at it, because then you have a baseline of where you're at with your project or whatever, and every once in a while you surprise yourself, and then might end up in a hobby that changes your life forever. One thing I'm trying to do with kids is get to that point where they can have a moment of aha, I did it, or I'm better at this than somebody else. Because a lot of kids we work with don't feel like they have the, they just don't have the ability sometimes, because nobody ever gave them permission. There's a lot of kids out there that feel helpless, and they're never given that permission for greatness. And my game plan is do what my grandfather did for me and make me feel like I'm a superstar at something. And if I can get a kid to do that, then it's like game on. Like it starts just like water, this trickle down effect where this one thing leads into the next thing. When I was a kid, I had trouble. I'm dyslexic, and that's the reason why my artwork kind of looks the way it does, is because a lot of stuff I see is in negative space. And so when most people think of dyslexia, they think of like reading backwards or just jumbling words, but a lot of it is seeing that negative space for me. And I had some amazing teachers. Trish Nassib was the first one that realized what I had, and she was just like, "Oh, you have dyslexia and you're not dumb." And I had just written myself off by that point. I was only in 6th grade, and it was a turning point for me to have somebody go, "Oh, this is what's going on," and I was able to have a name for my pain, pretty much. And once you have that, you can like overcome it. And so using artwork, using music, even making YouTube videos. I don't think adults understand what's going on when a kid wants to watch 12 hours of YouTube videos of some guy playing a video game, but it's an art form. And there's a reason why those people have like millions of followers, because there's something that they see in themselves, and they want to do it themselves also. So whatever, that's the kind of stuff I'm into. I'd love to be able to help somebody that's into video games connect with the kids, and then in return, it helps my business and it helps my community, and that's kind of where I'm at with getting kids involved in whatever they can, whether it be art, sports, whatever, and just kind of see that stuff happen. So there's this cult, I don't know if it's a cult following, but it's a huge following of this show called Rick and Morty, and Rick Sanchez is this character that is just a jerk, and he jumps all these crazy dimensions and stuff, and what happens is a lot of the episodes he ends up dying in very brutal ways. So think of a more educated version of Kenny from South Park. And so it's never a dignified way. And so when I was asked if I'd be interested in doing a Day of the Dead art piece, I immediately knew who I wanted to do it for, to give him the proper burial he deserves. And then my homeboy Dave Smith was the one that helped me build the coffin. And at first it started off as like, I'm gonna make it so it's about 2 or 3 feet long maybe. And then it turned into, you know what, let's just make it a full size, 4 feet tall ordeal. And then we decided we need to build a coffin around it. It needs to have some depth. Once we got the depth to it, we're like, okay, now we need some flowers. And so one thing led to another, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And I'm kind of one of those guys that takes it to the next level, even though I really don't need to. Multiple times my wife has just shook her head and goes, really, this is what we're gonna do with our front room? This is what we're gonna do with the garage, the back of the car, everywhere around my house is filled full of my leftover art, and then it's about a week of cleaning up afterwards. So I'm almost to the point of cleaning the mess up from this guy. But yeah, that's how I ended up getting into it, and that's the reason why I like Rick Sanchez, because he takes it to the next level too. So I did a rough sketch just in pencil of what I wanted, and then I found this $4 app on the iPad, and I drew it, a real quick rough sketch, and I was like, this is kind of what I wanted. And then it was a free app to begin with, and then I had to pay like the $4 to the extra thing to it. And so I drew it with my finger, actually, the whole dude. And so that's how I do all my artwork. I did this one, I draw it with my iPad with my finger. And so I'm about $5 into it for that part. And then the dudes at Sign Pro, every time I'm just like, hey, what do you think about that? And they're like, yeah, let's do that. They make a lot of things happen for me that probably I wouldn't be able to pull off by myself. And if I did, my wife would probably dislike me a lot more because I'd be, taking up the kitchen and everything else with all my art projects. So we ended up collaborating on that, and he helped cut it. He did the cutting of it, and he printed it off. We got it onto the hard plastic, and then after that, it was about building the box and getting the flowers and all that. And I don't usually pride myself on my flower arrangements, but I feel like I killed it on this one. So that's kind of where I was at. And then, like I said, my homie Dave Smith came through, and we just used kind of scrap wood and put it together. And the wood that's in the back is actually made for like cigar boxes. It's like this Cuban wood that's supposed to hold like humidity perfectly and all that, but it's really beautiful. I hate that I had to cover it up with the flowers, but it was kind of the whole theme of it, so I wanted to make that happen. It's about honoring people you care about that have passed away, and it's not a sign of doom and gloom. It's more about that celebration of who they are in that afterlife, of doing the right thing for them, and then honoring them. And I think it's a way to check in with family members maybe that are grieving, because you can see which ones, I think we've all been through it, where we've had somebody that we missed, and you have the funeral and it's done forever. And then only in passing you have friends that you kind of talk about, that you're like, you had that connection with, that you were openly being able to say that. But I think with this celebration of the Day of the Dead, I think it's a great way to continue to honor them and know that your life means something too. Because if you end up leading a really crummy life where you hurt a lot of people, there's not going to be a lot of people that are going to be honoring you. And so when you have little shrines, there might be some bad stuff on that shrine, or might not even be at all. So I really love the way they do that, and I think that's something that is phenomenal. With the Creative Hustler Company, I'm trying to take everybody under my wing that really has like a, that's not too hip on getting out and being able to promote themselves. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for people that that just are killing it with what they're doing, and it feels like they're not getting the respect that they deserve. So I mean, I'll take musicians that I really enjoy, I love hanging out with, and I can see what their potential is, and throw concerts, help throw concerts with them, create posters for them, and in return, all I want is I want our community to have a good time. There's this point where when we throw shows and we do art shows and we do art, that community feels like it gets a little bit smaller, and it makes it easier for us to live our day-to-day, I think.